I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with a moment of silence, please. Roll call, start with Commissioner Shimke.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is present. Commissioner Culberson. Here. Commissioner Steben. Here. Commissioner Cause.
Here.
All commissioners are present in some form. We don't have any public comment today, I believe. So we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lawfrey, we have any administrative business?
Commissioners, I do have something that I would like to go over with you. Over the last month or so, the board has been pushing the state to release the CARES Act funds that we believe were designated for local government, according to a calculation provided by the federal government, and then that was also used to provide funding to Sedgwick and Johnson County in Kansas. The governor formed a Sparks committee to determine the best way to make that happen. Obviously, we thought that seemed a little frivolous, but it did go through. The Sparks committee came up with a proposal. They submitted that yesterday to the State Finance Committee. There was a lot of discussion, some of which was really not very favorable for the counties, but in the end, the State Finance Committee did vote unanimously to approve the Sparks Committee's recommendation. And so therefore, I believe we will be receiving some information shortly on how to go about applying for the county's share of the CARES Act funds. Depending upon which calculation they use, there's two numbers that have been circulated for Leavenworth County. Statewide, they've talked about $194 per person, but locally, because of our unemployment rate and our case count for COVID, we may receive a little more than that number when it comes down to it. We don't have that exactly yet, but we will. The state, this morning I talked with the person over at the state who's kind of in charge of this. They believe that by the end of this week, first part of next week, they hope to have the resolution that the county will have to pass in order to receive funds, and that somewhere around July 13th, we should actually get the money from the state, the money that they're allocating. So what currently is proposed and what was approved yesterday is that, like I said, the $194 per citizen, every county will get that. I believe we'll get some additional. But half of that money will come to us directly and will be available for us to use for expenditures that are COVID related. The other half will be on a reimbursement basis only, so we will have to provide them with actual expenditures before they will give us that share of the money. The current proposal says that we have, as all counties, I shouldn't just say we, but the counties have until September 15th to come up with a plan to spend those funds. Now, the funds from the federal government are allowed through the end of the year. Expenditures are allowed through the end of the year, but the state is saying September 15th, we have to have a plan in place to spend those funds, or they're going to take them back, because they want enough time to figure out a way to spend them before the end of the year and once they know how much they have. That's reasonable. However, during the committee yesterday, the committee meeting, the Speaker of the House, who's on that committee, was pushing that first he was pushing that they keep the money at the state and not pass it on to the counties, which is kind of hypocritical, I think, in that he represents a county that got their money directly from the federal government. But then when that didn't stand, that went on through, that they passed money through, but he also pushed for a reduction in that time frame so that then the counties only have until August 15th to come up with a plan to spend the money that we're going to get on somewhere around July 15th. So about 30 days to figure out how we can use those funds to positively impact our county, and it has to be related to COVID-19 expenditures. So I'm hoping the Sparks Committee sticks to their original plan and at least gives us until September. It's potential that they could come back with August based on the recommendation by the Finance Committee. So either way, the money's coming, a portion of it, and we need to then establish a plan on how we're going to spend it before we would have to send it back to the state.
We also got to distribute it to the cities, correct?
Well, I think that was our intent all along. I think that's what the board has talked about all along. I mean, obviously that is what we believe the intent was from the federal government all along as well. However, it's not mandated in this resolution, but I do think that was our intent. I can't say that every county would do that.
So, I mean, the cities would receive 50% of what they was originally going to receive, correct, on this first batch?
Yeah, it would be very similar to ours. One, we would have to, because we're going to be the pass-through entity, they would have to adopt a local, we do resolutions, they would probably have to do it as an ordinance because cities do ordinances for laws. But we would adopt a resolution stating we were going to use the funds only for allowable expenses. The cities would have to do the same thing and provide that to us since we're the pass-through. Then they would have to provide us a plan on how they're going to spend that money so that we know if there's going to be money left over, whether the county could then utilize it. So let's say Baser's going to get $1 million, and I'm just throwing that number out there. That's not the actual number, but let's say they're going to get $1 million and they only have plans to spend $750,000 of it. The county could then reallocate that $250,000 that was left over for county-wide expenditures if we had something. If not, it would go back up to the state.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Stevens. Mark, I had a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can this money be used if we decided to have a county business assistance fund or some such entity to assist businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19 and closures and all the various restrictions we put on and how that impacted them? Is there any, can those funds be used for such approach?
There's some clear guidelines and some not so clear guidelines on the usage of the funds. I believe what you're proposing would be if a business could demonstrate that they were impacted due to COVID closure or otherwise, could we provide them with assistance? And I do believe that those funds would be allowed for something like that.
That's very good because we really impacted a lot of, not just us, but all these restrictions probably have sunk some businesses, and this would be something maybe we could help some survive.
Okay. So this is going to be additional workload along with the budgets to be put together.
So just real quick, I mean, the state has made it clear that this was not to be a loss of income replacement. Yet when we talk about business assistance, that's exactly what we're talking about, is they had a loss of income, right? Their expenses didn't go away, but their income did. So that just seems, while I'm glad a program like that would exist, that seems very problematic. I mean, just in the county instance, we're, $3+ million, $3.5 million in lost income. We hope that income is replaced, but that's not what any of this is to be used for, yet we could help a business out that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct. We cannot use it at the government level for income replacement. So if we have a shortage of revenues, we cannot supplement it with COVID-19 CARES Act funds. If we have expenditures due to that, we can. But from an economic incentive basis, we can utilize those funds to assist businesses that were impacted due to COVID-19, and that would include if they were impacted because of lack of revenue, I would assume is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that is an allowable usage.
Okay.
But the number of businesses that were impacted and the number of dollars we're talking about would be pretty little available for each business.
Well, I think, they had, when they did the small business loans, direct loans that then may end up being forgiven later, I don't think the intent was ever that it was going to fully save the business. It was just to help them maybe through a rough spot. And I think that similarly, if we considered anything like that, obviously it's not a Wall Street bailout or anything we're talking about. We're talking about, I don't want to steal a phrase from anybody, but maybe what sucks less is that we can help them through maybe pay a month of rent or some utilities or something like that, if that's what the Board of County Commissioners. And once we get, I have a little bit more information, I will circulate that to the board. And then once we get the final determination from the state, obviously we'll be right on that and we will have as little time between when they let us know what we have to do and when we actually do it as possible. And again, this will probably result in numerous work sessions on how the county would like to go about allocating those funds.
And Mark, we also talked about if again, from a sales tax generation perspective, or the main income stream being a property tax perspective, if the lack of funding impacted projects that would have been completed had COVID not occurred, do we believe there could be some opportunity there or not?
Originally, that's what the federal government had allowed, but that has been removed at some point along the line.
That was in one of the 15 revisions?
Right.
Okay.
At some point along the line, that's been removed, so that's no longer an allowable use of funds.
Well, main thing is we get a resolution passed so we can get our money, and get the cities to get a resolution passed so they can get their money, and then go from there.
Yep, and we will, like I said, once that gets to us, that we will circulate that immediately. And, I think it's significant to the county that it could be up to $15 million. I suspect that we will be lucky if we get our half that they're talking about. But that's still significant and appreciated.
More than we got right now.
It's more than we got right now, and it's appreciated. I mean, at least we're going to get some of it because the state discussed.
And the interest off of $15 million for a couple months.
One thing you're not actually allowed to do is collect interest on federal grant funds. So.
Okay. Anything else under administrative business?
I think that was that's the gist of it.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Stephen. I have one question for you, Mark. Under this legislation that the governor signed that modified the authority of counties in relation to the health orders, have you had time to review that and what changes that makes to the Board of County Commissioners authority?
Well, I have reviewed the statute that was adopted in the special session. I think it's numerous pages long and problematic in some areas, but I think that the area you're talking about specifically, it says that while the county health officer can implement an order, it has to be reviewed by the Board of County Commissioners, setting as the Board of County Health Officers, or not officers, but the Board of County Health. It has to be reviewed by them within a certain number of days.
Okay, that's the main change.
That's the primary change, yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, if no other administrative business, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any items that need to be discussed separately on the consent agenda? Any questions, concerns on items on the consent agenda? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Commissioner Cobb. I need to have the check register removed from the consent agenda, please.
Okay. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the check registry.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
Mr. Stephen votes aye.
Okay. And now I'll entertain a motion to approve the check registry.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the check registry. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Cobb abstain.
Commissioner Stevens votes aye.
All right. Thank you. All right. Are we ready for planning and zoning? How are you today, Crystal?
I am well, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Doing okay.
Morning.
Good deal. Good morning, Commissioners. This is a request to approve Resolution 2020-20. This is a carryover from the special use permit request for Z&M Twisted Vine Wine and Winery that we talked about last week. One thing that I do want to point out, the Planning Commission had made a recommendation of approval. One of the conditions that they added to that was the noise level at the property line shall not exceed 60 decibels. So that is in this resolution because that's the recommendation that the Planning Commission made. We talked a little bit about that last week, about whether or not that's actually feasible. However, it was not specifically struck. So just
I
so
don't
you
know how it's going to be enforceable with the turnpike there. It
Right.
creates more noise than this is going to create. Counselor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, this is David Van Paris. I have had the occasion to think about a possible resolution to your resolution issue, and that would be to strike the specific decibel level reference and just state that the noise level shall not rise to the level of a nuisance, period. I think that would protect any of the adjoining property owners. This property is in the immediate vicinity of I-70, or the turnpike.
And the service area.
The service area, I think the ambient noise level of that area probably exceeds 60 decibels a great deal of the time in any event. So I think you could protect the adjoining property owners simply by referencing that the noise level would not rise to the level of a nuisance.
I'd say the turnpike exceeds it 24 hours a day.
It would be difficult to attribute where
Right.
the decibels came from.
So if we made that change, would this have to come back next week? Or can
No,
we
I
just...
can update it this morning.
Okay,
No.
because we don't want to keep dragging this on.
Yeah, I should have brought it up last week,
Yeah.
but we got all caught up on some other things. And
Well, I visited the site. I know where the noise comes from. And-
So we can make a motion to approve the resolution and adjust the noise level not to exceed to a
A nuisance level.
Nuisance.
Yes.
So is that your motion?
That would be my motion, or unless I need to restate it.
Second.
Do we have to call it a resolution, or do we do it, vote on it separately?
It's resolution
So you'll have to put the resolution
2020.
number.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-20 with the exception of the noise level not to be to the level of nuisance.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on Resolution 2020-20? Then voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
Commissioner Stevens votes aye.
All right. Thank you.
all right, Commissioners, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll update this and get it over to Becky.
All right.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal. All right, we ready for Mr. Marlboro?
What's up, Larry?
I have no idea.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I thought you might be calling in today.
That was an option?
Now that
Probably would have
you're
took you
here,
up on it.
Probably not.
I try to get out of these meetings as often as possible, as you know. Today, I come before you
Hurts my
requesting
feelings,
the
Larry.
commission, excuse me, Doug?
That hurts my feelings. You try to get out of these meetings.
Nothing personal. I come before you trying to get the website hosting award to a company named Revise. I'm not going to read the RBA to you unless you'd like me to.
No, I've already read it. Thank you, though.
The committee did a pretty good job, I feel, of going through the 5 proposals we received. Everybody is in agreement that Revise will do a good job for us. That's our assessment. So we're hoping the board will approve partnering with Revise in an amount not to exceed $38,700, which would be the initial fees, and the annual fees will be $5,900 a year starting next year.
Larry, just for anybody that wasn't on the committee or it is interested, so towards the end of the review process, it was really came down to revise and I think Muni Code. And while Muni Code is slightly cheaper, I think there was some feature functionality sets that we didn't think was there. In addition to, again, as we requested some testimonials, I think there were some things that continue to push us in this direction. Just wanted to see if you could summarize quickly.
We initially nailed it down to 3, and then we pared it down to 2. All the companies that I don't really want to speak ill of any of them, but of Revise and Unicode, all the feedback that I solicited from existing customers was very positive. So I got a lot of over-the-top, they almost seemed like they were shills. Some of them were so glowing, I thought they must work for the company. So I didn't get anything that really was a smoking gun to say, well, we need to walk away from these guys. Look at how bad they did. So the feedback was great. The websites, though, when you start looking at the actual product, I think one of the compelling reasons that we went with Revise was their civic engagement aspect was, in my opinion, and I think some other committee members' opinion, was more feature-rich than what Municode provided. And then the editor was far simpler, by my estimation, with Revise, as far as what the county employee would look at in order to modify the page, do an update.
Sure.
It's way simpler with Revise than it was with Unicode, Civic Plus, any of the others. Their interface was the simplest, and I think simple is going to really help when certain users may not touch it, but once every month or two, they go back and they don't have to relearn or try to pull up a tutorial to figure out how did I do that 2 months ago. It really is the simplest possible way to do an edit, and that was very compelling to me. It'll encourage people to update their websites, I think, by making it very simple.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I think one of the things, and Larry just touched on it, but that I thought was really important is there's the citizen engagement modules. So if everything else was equal, Revise was clearly ahead of the rest of the game. And that not only can you go in and submit complaints or issues online, but that it directs it to the right people, and then the citizen can track the progress of it. So they almost create an account, and then they get updates. So as a department, let's say somebody submitted a pothole complaint, it would go to Public Works would send it out to their staff, the staff would go out and assumingly fix the pothole. They would update that in the system, Public Works would, that the pothole had been fixed, and that person would then get a notification that it was done. It was addressed. So I thought that was important and a feature that the other ones were not offering.
It also shares those problem reports. If Public Works is inclined to make it visible, other people could go to the site, they could see, well, this pothole right here has already been reported, so maybe they won't call or keep reporting the same pothole or the same sign missing on some intersection. You already got it there, and they'll see the push pin. Oh, yeah, that was reported this morning. I won't report it too. And feedback from Public Works, we're going out to fix it or whatever, will be there. So it really should help them, interact with them. It's got a map integrated with it so they can just look at the map and see the push pins. Who doesn't like that? Everybody loves push pins and maps, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to work out real well. The other caveat I would share with you is that the sheriff's office is going to go with their own product. They're going a different path, so they're not going to be part of this project. So the approval that I'm asking the commission for is to authorize not to exceed the 38.7 that's listed here, because we want to negotiate. There will be a contract coming from Revise that David will have to review and all that, but we'd like to negotiate the price down a little bit.
I would say if the scope changed, yeah.
Scope changed down?
Yeah.
Correct. So we're expecting to be able to move the dollar down. But I would like to get the board's approval so that we have an authorization to partner with Revise and then proceed with that. Get their documents, get David involved with council, and if you're willing, Mark could sign the final agreement unless you want it to come back here for a signature.
I wouldn't recommend that. I know that we've had this conversation more so with Public Works and on larger roadway projects, but timelines and deliverables
It's going a lot faster.
Well, and yeah, meeting deadlines, and if you don't, there should be penalties to it. Those are things that I would highly recommend that we pursue as a part of that contract, just because these things that typically they say 60, 90, 120 can turn into 2 2X in a hurry.
My fear is that we will be the delay,
Understood?
and hopefully we won't. I spoke with this particular company yesterday or the day before. Anyway, my goal was to get this done before Thanksgiving. They estimated they could have it done in 3 to 4 months. Well, you know, Thanksgiving rolls up and then things get really bad through the end of the year, holidays, schedules. I don't want to see Thanksgiving happen and we don't have this live, because then it'll just drag on until January 1st and beyond. You never get anything good done in December, right? So I think we'll be done before Thanksgiving, provided the county doesn't create any, because we're going to have to decide what we want for the interfaces, you know, pick color schemes and things like that. There's some participation on our part. And if we quagmire in taking 3 or 4 weeks to decide on a layout, or we want 4 different tweaks because we don't like everything that came back, well, that adds time to the project. So
Sure.
if we are decisive up front and make quick calls, I think we'll be done in no time, matter of 3 months.
Just don't mention change order.
There-
Please, no change order.
Those are built in. These tweaks
sick
are
of change
expected.
orders.
There won't be a change order for an expense, but they do already have a written-in thing where you get like 4 different modifications to the template. They bring what they think you like. Well, do this, okay, and they'll do that. They give you 4 runs at it. That's not a change order.
Okay.
This isn't roads.
Okay.
And that was something that was unique to them, I remember in the proposal, was that the collaboration aspect, they weren't just going to T&M you. It was included.
Right. It's included.
Well,
I think you'll be very satisfied with this company.
I think it's very important on this item that we don't go low bid. You know, worst case scenario, we pay too much one time, but we get what we need. We pay too little, we're
Then
stuck with
not
it every
like it.
day, and we have something we can't use. I had that out the shop many years of commissioners telling me what we needed to buy. So
Sometimes you get what you pay for, right?
you always get what you pay for. So good stuff's not cheap, cheap stuff's not good.
Generally correct, yes.
So, with any more discussion on this, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we award the CMS services to Revise in the amount not to exceed $38,700.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion and voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Todd votes aye.
Commissioner Stevens votes aye.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this, and the people
Yeah,
that
Larry,
sat
thank
on the
you very much.
committee.
That's great.
Get this.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
I cleared out the room. You sure did. We have anything else before us? Commissioners got anything coming up or that they attended last week since we've last met?
Update on the Millwood Bridge is just gone.
I seen that. And they've had some good weather to work.
It's completely removed, ready for construction instead of destruction.
So last week I was planning to attend the LCDC meeting, but was unable to, so I don't know if Vicki or anybody else did, so maybe
I
they could
didn't, when I
provide.
got your email, I was in Effingham, Kansas.
But this week, so Monday, I attended the Fire District 1 Board of Trustees meeting, and then yesterday, the Delaware Board meeting. So I think there'll be more news this week, because there's a number of other meetings that are still to occur, including the City of Lansing's meeting Thursday, to discuss, their position relative to our proposal for July 1st. So I don't know that I have anything to add other than it was relatively business as usual at these meetings. I thought they were conducted as well as could be expected. Unfortunately, there was another resignation that came into Fire District 1, so that's obviously troubling and makes this matter, I think, that much more pressing.
Right.
It's a fairly limited staff, as it were. You have a number of people that are on leave. You then have a pandemic that creates some challenges for volunteers. And so Obviously want to thank everybody and all their hard work. You know, Chief Gates has stepped in as interim chief and doing a great job. And, you know, again, just everybody continues to focus on public safety and stability. Stability goes a long way to, you know, preventing the turnover. So just wanted to thank those guys and continue pushing on. Sounds like we'll have more information next week.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Cobb. High Prairie will be having a township board meeting on Thursday evening as well, and I'll be attending that.
Okay. All right. The only thing I got is don't forget the census. We've got to make sure everybody fills out the census and be counted.
So I was going to bring that up when you were talking, Mark, about the money from the feds, and they're going to base it, you said $194 per person, per county. So they get that number, that calculation from the census numbers, correct?
Yep.
So it's important to
It's
point out
so
to people.
important to fill out that census.
You know, I get asked all the time, why do they need to know? You know, when people get that mailer, why do I got to fill this out? Well, there's a really good example.
That's a very good example of, it is one for one, you know, the $194 per person. So the more that we've got counted, the better off.
So it takes,
Are inmates in that total?
they're counted, it depends on what you're counting it for. There's different projects. So sometimes they count military, college, inmates, sometimes they don't. But yeah, it's in the information. So a lot of people ask, you know, why do I need to fill a census form out? That's a really good example. We wouldn't get that money
For federal
if they
money.
don't fill that fund,
Before it's included?
that form out.
In our population, if they're primary residents. Now, sometimes with the visiting officers, they're not, because their orders are temporary, so they still claim Florida is, let's say, is their primary
Yeah, I mean,
residence. But
seems like every
It's
other
like
CGSC
college.
person I've met, they've got a residence in West Virginia or Washington or Texas or Florida because of property tax reasons and a lot of
Tax
others, so
reasons, yep.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the ones who are stationed here permanently, they are.
Okay.
Okay. And anybody else have anything? Believe Baser's got the second annual car show, Remington's
Yeah,
Heart
Saturday.
Foundation. Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday.
I'm going to try to go to that.
I'm going to try, but see, we got the thing in Tonganoxie. Republican.
This is Commissioner Steben.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith and I know there were others that we attended the Republican Women's, and we raised the issue with our local legislators and the candidates running, continue to raise, and we do have support from everybody that spoke on during the next session on this outbuilding legislation for the survivors of the tornado, and we're going to continue to pursue that. And then the other thing I wanted to ask Mark was, do we have any status on the FEMA resources from the tornado?
Well, I think the status is that we've submitted. I will follow up with Chuck on that, but I believe we've submitted the necessary paperwork to be included in that. But no, we have not received any update on where that funding might be. I'm really concerned about the availability of funds given the $3 trillion that the government just handed out.
Printed and handed out.
And that's been 15 months since,
Not
13.
quite. It's, yeah, we're
About
at
13 months.
Yep.
that what it is,
They
13?
usually tell you about 18 months to get your money.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, is say we're still kind of in that
Yeah,
window.
we're still in the window.
Yeah.
It is,
So maybe when they do the federal budget in October, they'll allot money.
But is it 18 months from the event, or is it 18 months from once all the appropriate paperwork has been submitted?
I think 18 months is that kind of middle of the road target. So you're not likely to get it any quicker than 18 months, but it could go past that. I think what we were hoping for is that we would receive the money in this budget year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, okay, yeah.
How's that sound, Mike?
Okay, anything else before we adjourn? But you said the car show, I wanted to, it's Remington's Heart Foundation car, truck, bike show. That's at the high school. That's Saturday. Okay,
I can't remember what time, but I remember seeing the email.
yeah, okay. But yes, I'm going to try to get there. Got to be in 2 places at once, but I think I can do it. So, anything else? Then a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
But, bye.
Thanks.
Commissioner Stevens, votes aye.